Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Speaking of Ron DeSantis, it is Ron DeSantis Presidential Declaration Day. And look who's here from the great state of Florida. Fred Guttenberg is here. Say hi to Fred, Malcolm.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
Hey, Fred. How are you? Good to hear you. You know what? There's no greater advocate for gun control than Fred Guttenberg. And, I'm sorry, we're both aggrieved people. We've had a lot of grief in our life. But, by God, we have to do something, especially since yesterday was also Uvalde Day, right?
Today is the anniversary. Today's the anniversary.
I went through SWAT officer school when I was in the military in 2019. And I had LAPD cops teach us that your job, all right, when you go through that door is to get between the shooter and the victims. And the horrible thing that we had, all of those children and teachers killed in every instance is a failure of law enforcement. And Uvalde has a SWAT team, if you can believe that.
Same thing happened in Parkland. And in Uvalde, there are the recordings of law enforcement saying, he has an AR-15, he has an AR-15. They froze. They became afraid because they felt outgunned. It's all on the recordings. And listen, Malcolm, I don't get it. Why is law enforcement so hesitant to lead the charge on doing something about this?
Yeah.
Their lives are at risk.
Yeah. The cops are the last people to want civilians to have AR-15s.
Yeah. They should be so vocal.
There actually was a push about 5 to 6 years ago by law enforcement officers who were coming out, chiefs of police, I believe it was the National Association of Chiefs of Police, were saying we've got to get long rifles out of the hands of civilians. They're upgrading their body armor. They can still shoot through the armor that police have. Yeah. And what happened in response to these few brave officers was their police unions got rid of them. And the police unions I think, are the biggest obstacle to everything. I mean, they're insanely conservative.
Republicans,
they're beholden to the NRA.
Republicans are pro-police until they're not. Until they're not for the Capitol policeman, because that doesn't fit their narrative.
Last week, I was in New York at an award ceremony with the 5 Capitol Hill police officers who testified at the January 6th committee. True heroes who lost friends to violence in the Capitol. Yeah. And the idea that Republicans are supportive of law enforcement but haven't stood behind the Capitol Police, that are okay with police officers getting shot on our streets because the police officers are outgunned, it is a bunch of BS. If you really do value law enforcement, which I do, the first thing you would do would get behind gun safety measures because you know what? The police officers who I know and love, they want to go home at the end of the day too. Yeah.
And, Malcolm, the PTSD they have, certainly comparable to what, a lot of people that you served in the military have dealt with. But also, I always say, Fred, I don't think there's enough attention paid to the police officers who committed suicide, the Capitol police officers. Because, Malcolm, as I've said over and over again, the military way better than I do, but our military doesn't engage. You fought in Ukraine. They don't engage in hand-to-hand combat for hours like these guys did. And to the degree they were traumatized, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And many of them, coupled with other things that are going on in their lives, could not handle the intensity of it. I mean, I don't know if I could have handled the intensity of it. Especially when you see 10,000 people descend on your building with the intent to overthrow government and kill you. That's going to have a traumatic effect on anybody. I'm writing a Substack, and this is why I think people need to subscribe to my Substack, malcolmnance.substack.com, because I'm writing an article about how the AR-15 and the civilian warrior ethos came out of U.S. Special Operations in the War on Terror, and now all these big fat guys who are out there pretending to be militiamen, pretending to be MEAL Team 6 and Special Forces are
Gravy seals. I'll do the joke first. Gravy seals.
Yeah. They're out dressing like this, and they have now incorporated this. All the right-wingers, the King Leonidas beard from the movie 300, and, they all want to be, these wannabe Special Forces, and they've just now have made that this avatar of this insane version of what they think is manhood. Oh, but none of them will step up to save a child by having background checks on an AR-15. Look, I'm a big gun owner. I'm a gun collector. I am an advocate of licensing and insurance on every weapon. You want to make a few $1 billion? Insure those things so that if you have a negligent discharge and kill a child, or someone goes out and does it, right, that the law, that gun companies can still be sued, and that people can have their families properly compensated, and that competent individuals are driving these weapons like we license cars.
Sadly, Fred, the name of your new book, Carnage, the American Carnage, is, sadly, eerily accurate. And, I saved this tweet for you because I thought it's here you come, from Florida, where, Parkland occurred. Amanda Gorman, the poet who spoke at Biden's inauguration, tweeted this morning, "One parent could get my poetry banned from classrooms, and yet one country can't ban assault rifles from massacring them."
Listen, and Amanda, she is a brilliant young woman, and the idea that some crazy parent is able to do what happened in Florida because a crazy governor, emboldened by a supermajority, who wants to run for president but is too afraid to do so publicly, so he's going on a Twitter Spaces to announce it. Okay, I mean, this is the crazy that we're in. But I got it, Malcolm. You started what you said before by saying, and it's such an important part of why we wrote American Carnage. You explained you're a gun owner, okay? And the idea of reducing gun violence was never an issue of gun owners versus non-gun owners. It never was. It's not a pro-gun, anti-gun thing. And we need more gun owners to speak up and speak out. It's not gun owners that I have an issue with. It's not the Second Amendment. It's gun violence. And it's the idea that it is so hard to have a conversation where people, Malcolm will receive a lot of hate for being so public about what he just said, okay? And we know who it's going to come from.
Yeah.
But I wrote American Carnage with Tom Gabor because we wanted to take on all the lies and the myths that brought us to this place where we're paralyzed from the ability to do anything about it.
We're going to have Fred in here studio with us, but I just want to say, one of the things I did not know till your book is that 70% of us don't own guns.
That is correct.
And Malcolm, I feel like this coming election is going to be, whether it's women's choice, guns, not having your kids massacred in school, it's going to be about the ability of, is the minority going to hold the majority hostage over these, over these issues?
And they are keeping us hostage right now on the issue of guns and children. Remember how they were going to use the platform of Greg Youngkin in Virginia, of parents wanting to have better control of what happens to their children in school.
Yeah.
But they've just abdicated that when it comes to killing their children in school.
Yeah.
And they did the same thing with child rape by priests and and lay people in churches. What we have to do is flip that on its head and say, you are in favor of children being killed.
Yeah.
And you can't say that you're not. You can't say that you're pro-life if you will not see 19 children mass murdered in Uvalde and 2 teachers and cops standing outside because they're afraid of the very guns they love.
Yep,
Insane.
absolutely.